Alright you guys, now it's been over 3 months since I've been using the Galaxy S23 Ultra as my main driver, and if I could sum up the whole experience, I would say it's pretty damn good. Now, after all of the high praises and fair criticisms that the S23 Ultra has endured since its late February release, it's safe to say that it's an overall upgrade from last year's S22 Ultra. It basically took everything that was good about the S22 Ultra and fixed all of the bad, making it a well-rounded phone that's reliable and safe for the average consumer who wants the best of the best. And that's exactly what you get. The S23 Ultra's display is phenomenal, the battery easily lasts me all day, the camera has provided me with top tier photos, and its build quality along with feel takes premium to a whole new level. And even though I love the Galaxy S23 Ultra and the experience it's given me, I can't say that it was perfect and there were some minor things that really weren't that great. But despite its flaws, hopefully this video can help you guys decide whether or not the Galaxy S23 Ultra is actually worth your hard-earned dollar. Now, one of the most important pieces of hardware that you can have on your smartphone is battery, and that's exactly where the S23 Ultra doesn't disappoint. And over the past few weeks, I tested how long the Galaxy S23 Ultra lasts from medium to high usage. About 2 weeks ago, I was averaging around 8 hours of on-screen time, and over the past week, I've cut it down to about 4 hours max. And no matter how long or short I use my phone, there was only one time where I had to use power saving mode, and that was the day that I got damn near 11 hours of on-screen time. True story. Now the S23 Ultra supports 45 watt fast charging, which I had no problems with. It charges from 0 to 100 in just over an hour, and I got so comfortable with it to the point where I really couldn't stress charging it at night. I would wake up in the morning, put my phone in the charger, take a shower, get dressed, and by the time I got done, my phone was fully charged. Also, I never was the type of person to cut any corners to save battery. If I'm spending over $1,000 on a phone, I'm using it to the max. So during my time of using the S23 Ultra, I had 5G on, my brightness was on manual and always medium to high with always on display on. I'm using every power heavy app as much as I can, and again, I only use power saving mode once, meaning that the S23 Ultra easily beats out my iPhone 14 Pro Max and Pixel 7 Pro. Now, something else that's extremely important when it comes to your phone on a day-to-day basis is its design and build quality. You want a phone that's not only comfortable to hold, but also looks good enough to keep you satisfied, and the S23 Ultra again did not disappoint. The S23 Ultra has this very boxy frame that surprisingly complements my hand very well. I'm holding my phone for hours on a day-to-day basis, so it really helps to have a phone that's easy to handle. And even when this phone does have curves, they come at a minimum. I love how the S23 Ultra's edge is bent, but not as much as any other phone that uses the curved display. The S23 Ultra also has a pretty nice weight to it. It weighs about 234 grams, which is a tiny bit lighter than my 14 Pro Max, and I'm not gonna lie, at first it does feel heavy, but after a day or two, you'll come to appreciate it as it gives you a very premium feel. But besides the massive size and sharp curves, the S23 Ultra has really mastered that Samsung stealthy machine type of style. The buttons and ports were in the right places, the phone was big enough to add to the experience, and it's beautiful enough to use without a case. But I don't really trust myself, so I'm still not going to do that. And now looking at the display, the S23 Ultra has a 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display that is still my favorite on any phone to date. I loved how it had the tiny hole punch camera to really maximize the screen. Also, I use swipe gestures, so I basically have the full screen to fill in whatever I'm doing, whether it's watching a movie, playing a game, or just scrolling through my Twitter timeline. And now the S23 Ultra has Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the back and on the display, so if you're bold enough to use your phone without a case, the S23 Ultra will survive a few drops before you notice any damage. But just like I warned everyone else, any technology does not need to be dropped on concrete pavement. And now durability isn't the only thing that's great about the S23 Ultra's display. It's very bright, sharp, and premium when compared to the likes of the 14 Pro Max and Pixel 7 Pro. And now the brightness was pretty much the same as last year's S22 Ultra at 1750 nits. I was also able to see everything very clearly no matter how bright it got outside. Also, I did test the auto brightness for a couple of days, and it was very accurate when scanning my environment. And arguably, my favorite thing about the display is the 120Hz refresh rate mixed in with the smooth animations of One UI 5.1. They complemented each other so well that I still prefer using social media apps on my S23 Ultra as opposed to my 14 Pro Max. Watching movies and content on this phone is amazing. The Dolby Atmos along with the dual speakers creates that immersive experience when it comes to sound, and the speakers are extremely loud so you can watch any movie on the go. And finally, let's just say that when it comes to unlocking your phone, the S23 Ultra has an array of great options. The fingerprint sensor was very sharp and worked very well whenever I put lotion on or got my hands very dirty. And the facial recognition was much better after the updates, but I still prefer to use my fingerprint. Now the S Pen on the S23 Ultra is something that a lot of people don't really care about, but it can really be a great addition if you are someone that does use it. And as soon as you take it out of your S23 Ultra, you get a bunch of different settings and apps where you can create a note, screen write, do live messages, and many other things that can benefit you depending on how you use your phone. And the cool feature that I like to use is the magic wand. Basically, you press the button in the middle of your S Pen, swipe up or down to control the volume, and left or right to go back or forward on the video that you're watching. And I especially use this feature whenever I'm on a bike and have my phone on the holder in the gym. I feel like if you want to use the S Pen, most of you guys will have to incorporate it into your routine somehow, or else you'll forget that it even exists. The screen latency is still minimal after 3 months of use. Another thing I use my S Pen for is to write my signature whenever I'm filling out an electronic check for my job, and it still has yet to bug out on me. But overall, the S Pen is a great addition to the S23 Ultra, and in my opinion, I'd rather spend over $1,000 on a phone that goes the extra mile to give me stuff that I don't really need, as opposed to a phone that's lackluster and doesn't go the extra mile at all. Now, before I discuss the camera, I want to go over some minor problems that I had to deal with in my 3 months of using the S23 Ultra. Now, the first problem that I had was during March. Once to twice a week, I will be using my phone and it will automatically freeze on me and I'll have to restart it. But so far, it has not happened in the month of April and the beginning of May. And hopefully this does not happen ever again, but again, we'll see. Now, the next problem that I dealt with on my S23 Ultra was the shutter lag. There will be times where I wanted to catch a picture of my cat, and once I snapped a flick, it would capture it later, so it ended up being either blurry or missed a shot altogether. And the last problem that I dealt with on the S23 Ultra is not specifically about just this phone, but it's all Android phones as a whole, and that's Android Auto. Now, Android Auto is a serious problem for me because whenever I'm doing something on my GPS, it won't let me type on my phone even when my car is parked. The OS looks extremely outdated, and Samsung apps aren't even supported on it, so that was the only time where I truly missed my iPhone. Now, moving on to the camera, the Galaxy S23 Ultra is a beast on the spec sheet. 200 megapixel main camera with a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and two 10 megapixel telephoto cameras that are not perfect, but they are the next step down, which is pretty great. Something that I realized is that whenever I'm taking my phone out whenever the sun is out, the contrast goes all the way up. Like right here, I promise you that I've never seen grass this green in my life. It kind of looks like a filter, but it still looks pretty great in my opinion. Night mode photos are pretty good as well. I love how it brightens up everything in the photos so that any subject is not only clear to see, but is also very clean thanks to that signature Samsung sharpening. The S23 Ultra easily has the best zoom photos in the game. As you can see, I took pictures in different modes, and even at 10x, it was very clear and crisp. The only problem that I had with it was that after 10 megapixels, it really doesn't look that good, but it can be useful if something is very far away and you need to see, especially when it came to 100 times zoom. Selfies were pretty mid when compared to the Pixel or the iPhone. The sharpening was too much for me, and the Galaxy S23 Ultra makes me look lighter, but if you're someone who has lighter skin, your opinion might be different. Now, the videos on the S23 Ultra were very sharp as well. They have improved slightly since last year, while still being a beast on the spec sheet. You can also shoot videos up to 8K. It looks really good, but I do prefer to shoot in 4K since it takes up less space. The stabilization was solid, pans were smooth along with brightness and contrast, and the sharpening was still at its peak. And I want to give you guys some of my footage on my day in the life video so that you can judge the S23 Ultra by itself. Just ask Alexa. Alexa, where can I find almond butter?
Find almond butter at aisle 11.
I ain't gonna lie, that was fire. This joint pretty cool. And alright, you guys, that's it for my final review on the Galaxy S23 Ultra. And I'm pretty sure that I said everything that I feel about it. It's a great phone that is totally worth buying. It's the true definition of a flagship, and even though it is expensive, I'm completely happy with my purchase and excited for what more Samsung has to offer. And let me know down in the comments, what phone do you think is closest to beating out the Galaxy S23 Ultra? Let me know. And again, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.